Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kayfabe Central podcast, and welcome back to another episode of the AEW Dynamite post-show review. This time for January 7th, 2026, the first Dynamite of the new year, right? Yeah, this is the first Dynamite of the new year. Um, I'm going to be going over everything that went down. I completely lost my train of thought there, but because I was wondering, I could have sworn we had a Dynamite last week or something. I don't know what I'm thinking. My brain is all over the place. My brain is fried. But I am here for the AEW Dynamite post-show review. I'm going to be going over everything. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. If you are returning, welcome back. You know how this works. I break down everything from the matches to the segments, my thoughts on everything, and where I think we're going from here. All that good stuff I break down here on the Dynamite post-show review or any post-show review. And if you want to hear any other post shows that I have or any other podcasts that I have, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you're up to date. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that come to the channel. Speaking of interviews, I have two interviews being recorded this week, so make sure you guys go ahead and keep those notifications on or turn them on if you haven't already so you are notified when those interviews drop, and make sure you're following all the social medias so you are aware of when the announcements for those interviews are and announcements for anything in the future. I got a very interesting podcast episode coming to you guys tomorrow with Ruan Wrestling and Stu World Order, so make sure you guys are staying tuned for all that good stuff. We got a lot of good stuff coming to Kayfabe Central in 2026. Yeah, man, we're gonna start off. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna get into AEW Dynamite is what we're gonna do. That is what we're going to do. So before the show started, we got a little video from AEW. They posted a video of um it being revealed that Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight were attacked, and obviously they were supposed to be partners to Jungle Jack Perry in a trios match later in the night, but they are no longer able to compete. Um, so we had a little thing where Renee Paquette was waiting outside the medical room. We saw that the Demand, or Ricochet specifically, paid the Don Callis family to take out Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey, and we come to find out that the two men who did it was Jake Something and Mark Davis. Jake Something, who is now a part of AEW, is now going as Jake Doyle. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he's found a spot in AEW. And as somebody who covers both, like all everything like WWE, TNA, AEW, he wasn't getting anything in TNA anyway. They started doing something with him and Frankie Kazarian that could have been potentially interesting, but he's on a much bigger stage here in AEW. And Jake Something is very talented, and he is somebody who absolutely deserves this spot. And I'm happy to see it. I haven't seen anybody like disproving of it or anything like that. A lot of people seem to know who he is. And if you don't know who he is, you're gonna find out real soon. And maybe go ahead and like do some research on Jake Something, or now Jake Doyle, because the guy is something. The guy indeed is something. And he is very talented, is what that something is. So, congratulations to him for, getting on AEW, getting signed to AEW. I hope big things are in his future. Um, so that's a new tag team, Jake Doyle and Mark Davis. Hopefully this brings something, a little bit more to Mark Davis. I mentioned on my end of the year awards that I think Mark Davis is kind of just bland. And there's nothing really special about him. Like, he's not a bad wrestler, he's a solid wrestler, but he doesn't have much of an in-depth character or anything like that. He's just a heel, and that's pretty much it. Um, but that was the segment that opened Dynamite. We then went into the AEW Continental Championship Eliminator. Now, I don't know if I've actually said this on a podcast before, but um, I don't really like the whole eliminator term, because really and truly it's not an eliminator. It doesn't actually eliminate the person from contention, because we've seen in the past it doesn't, really mean anything. I would prefer if they just did like a number one contenders match or something like that. I'm very nitpicky like that though, so maybe it doesn't bother some other people. Maybe, some people just take it as that anyway. but I feel like, when you give a match a name, it should live up to that name, and Eliminator just doesn't because realistically, it doesn't eliminate you from contention. So I would have rather like a number one contenders, name to it or something like that. But I am all for John Moxley putting on these banger matches every single week because he did it again tonight against Shelton Benjamin. He beats Shelton Benjamin with, I believe, commentary said 5 seconds left on the 20-minute time limit. Shelton Benjamin had him in a triangle, and Moxley shifted his weight, allowed Shelton Benjamin's shoulders to be pinned on the mat for a 3 count. MVP was devastated. This was a phenomenal way to kick off Dynamite. This was a phenomenal match. Both of these guys are so talented. They both got praises for me on my AEW End of the Year awards, and rightfully so. I figured John Moxley was gonna win this, but like there was, of course, towards the end, I thought, we were going to a draw and Shelton Benjamin was gonna get an opportunity at the title, or maybe Shelton would just outright win. I wouldn't have minded that. I wouldn't have been opposed to Shelton Benjamin getting a title opportunity. Do I think he would have won it this early? Probably not. Probably not. Because Moxley just won that title, and I wouldn't have seen him dropping it anytime soon. But it's cool to see Shelton Benjamin in these spots because he is still really talented. The guy, has not missed a step at all. So it's fantastic to see him in these positions, and he put on a great match with Moxley, and it was a great way to kick off the show. It's going to be interesting to see who Moxley's opponent is eventually going to be. I can't really, off the top of my head, pinpoint anybody. Like AEW is, they're kind of weird with it. Like they don't have a structure, like a structured division or anything like that to be like, oh, this guy's been stacking up a lot of wins and, maybe he's in contention for the Continental title. It also doesn't help that you have so many titles. You don't know who's in contention for what because anybody can challenge for any title. Like, not to say like that this would be a bad thing, but like Kevin Knight could easily challenge for the AEW World Championship in like 2, 3 months, and people will be like, okay, um, like it's just how AEW works, and like I think that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with the amount of titles that they have because um, it's too much. It's way too much. Like championships should be, prestigious. They shouldn't just, it shouldn't come in a whole bunches of titles so everybody can have a title. But Tony Khan just really likes championships apparently. So, that's what it is. That's me nitpicking about it. Other than that, this match was fantastic. All of the matches that have come out of this Continental Classic as a whole and this Continental Championship has just been fantastic. So, I give it a thumbs up. I just nitpick with a lot of things, like with the amount of titles and the match name and all that stuff. Those things I could do without. Um, Darby Allin was looking for Pac backstage. He wanted a fight. He wants his rematch. We saw him tease that last week. Really, he really wants that rematch with Pac. He wants to put this Death Riders story to an end. So he was looking for him backstage, but that's all we got for that segment. Um, we then went to the trios match, Jungle Jack Perry and two mystery partners taking on the Demand, Ricochet, Toliona, and Bishop Khan. Now, I, it's before they came out, I was saying it's probably going to be the Young Bucks because realistically, I couldn't think of anybody else that would have made sense in this position. And I think it was kind of just predictable that it was going to be the Young Bucks. It doesn't matter if it was predictable. This was an amazing moment. They got an enormous pop. They came out in the old Young Bucks styled gear, and it was just amazing, man. Like they, the Young Bucks, as the kids say, have aura. And that's what they came out with. They just pure aura. They came out with, and they had a great match alongside Jack Perry against the Demand. Um, all six of these guys are so talented. Like Toa Leona and Bishop Khan, by the way, just get better every single week. Um, I started off really high on Toa Leona, and then Bishop Khan, I was kind of like in the middle with. I'm like, okay, I need to see more of him. And, since I've been seeing more of him, he hasn't disappointed at all. So, I'm liking the demand with Ricochet and the GOA. I think it's a very good trio to have. It's a very good position to have Ricochet in. Uh, I will say it doesn't seem like AEW necessarily knows what they want to do with the national championship. And that just goes back to my point of AEW having too many titles. And because Ricochet hasn't really defended that much. He defended it against Dalton Castle, and that's the last defense that I remember. I don't think he defended it after that, but I could be mistaken unless he defended it on like Collision or something. So if anybody in the chat, is listening, then let me know if I am wrong about that. Um, but yeah, this was a great match. But I hope that they can get this national championship under control because Ricochet's also lost while champion. Like I'm not saying every champion should absolutely be undefeated, but you should develop some sort of, like streak as a champion. But I guess like I understand where they maybe coming with Ricochet being like that coward, slimy heel that has to rely on cheating tactics, but like Ricochet's a talented wrestler. Like it's very believable for him to win a match, with just small cheating tactics or whatever. So like I'm not buying that either. I just feel like they need to do better with the national championship or stop having so many titles. Um, but Jack Perry and the Young Bucks defeat the Demand. After the match, Jake Doyle and Mark Davis, along with some other members like Lance Archer of the Don Callis family, come out and attack the three guys, the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. And afterwards, the lights go out, but it does not help for Jack Perry and the Young Bucks. It is Andrade making his third debut in AEW, the first man to go from WWE to AEW to WWE to AEW, leave AEW, and then go back to AEW. History making stuff right there. Um, but Andrade is officially back. As soon as the lights went out, I was like, oh, okay, it's Andrade because he was just at New Japan. So this makes sense that, he'll be here. I figured Andrade was going to be on AEW TV. We talked about this on the podcast, a week or two ago, before Wrestle Kingdom. So I figured he was going to be back on TV. And they did it really early. He's back and he is officially with the Don Callis family, and there is no reason for him to not show up next week. So hopefully we get some more development with that. The Don Callis family just keeps growing. So you know what? There was no Kyle Fletcher on the show. No Kyle Fletcher, no Josh Alexander from what I saw, unless Alexander was out there. I can't fully remember. I just remember seeing Lance Archer. Because I was doing something else at the time of the brawl, so Josh Alexander may have been out there and I just didn't see him. Um, but yeah, Andrade walks away with the Don Callis family. Um, and then FTR and Stokely Hathaway are at the entrance. Stokely is in a wheelchair. I can't fully remember why he's in a wheelchair. Um, it's probably just something that's, slipping my mind completely. Like I'm probably gonna remember when I get off live or something. But I saw him in a wheelchair. I'm trying to think. I'm like, my goodness, there's so much wrestling. Why is he in a wheelchair? There's more than likely a very good reason why he's in a wheelchair. But I just couldn't remember, and I still can't. But it'll come to me eventually. But that is an interesting development there of FTR and Stokely staring down Andrade. They have a history as well, so it's going to be interesting to see the route that they take with that. Is the Don Callis family? There's two people from the Don Callis family going to go for the tag team titles. Are we going to get a heel versus heel dynamic? Speaking of the tag team titles, where is Cope and Christian? Edge and Christian. I thought they would have been maybe they'll return in like the next couple weeks. I'm not saying they should have returned already or anything like that. Especially because Cope is probably not gonna put FTR over. I love Cope. I love Edge. I can't call him Cope. It's so difficult to do that. I love Edge, but I spoke about this on the end of the year awards for AEW, where I said that he hasn't put anybody over since he's got to AEW. So I'm not entirely excited for the return of uh Edge and Christian because it's probably gonna be the same thing. It's just gonna be them winning the tag titles. So it is what it is. Um, we then had the TBS Championship celebration for Willow Nightingale, who comes out with Harley Cameron and Chris Statlander, the AEW Women's World Champion. Obviously, Harley Cameron, the other half of the Women's Tag Team Champions. They all come out and celebrate. Willow cuts a very babyface promo. And then she has the dessert table set up with, cake and all that stuff. But then she throws a hint of pro wrestling logic and a little bit of kayfabe out the window when she says, because it's professional wrestling, somebody's probably going to come out and crash my party anyway. And it's probably going to be Mercedes Monet. So, Mercedes, why don't you come out to the ring and celebrate with us? Sometimes I just love that. Like I loved when Kevin Owens did that as well, where he would just throw the logic onto it, like the time where him and Sammy were feuding with Imperium, and like he was like, "Oh, we didn't even say your name, and you came out. Usually, you have to wait till somebody says your name, and then you come out." That's what this reminded me of. Um, but Mercedes does come out dressed in like morning gear, similar to what the New Day was wearing when they were mourning their loss at the tag team championships, just in white. So she comes out, and Willow, offers her to celebrate and, tries putting her over a little bit, but Mercedes isn't having it and, throws the table. And then Mercedes gets a cake in the face from Chris Statlander. This segment was very WWE. This was a very WWE segment, and I don't like that. I don't like the fact that this was such a WWE segment on an AEW Dynamite. Um, I just didn't like this segment. I don't like it when WWE does it either. So don't think this is like, oh, AEW's copying WWE. I don't like it. I don't like when WWE does this stuff either. you know, it's corny, it's cringy, and it's like it's not good. Um, so yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this segment. I could care less about it. It's not like I can care less about Willow and Harley and Chris because I love them all. And they're all fantastic wrestlers. Just the segment itself, the way it was written, it was just weird and very WWE like, and it just wasn't good. Um, we had a pre-recorded promo from Mark Briscoe because he does those a lot. He likes to do this pre-recorded promos, which it fits him. He's at like it seems like his house or like his farm or whatever it is, and he cuts these promos. First, he congratulates Willow Nightingale on her TBS championship win. Um, and then he says he is ready for Hechicero, who wants a shot at the TNT championship. Um, and then he rambles on about a whole bunch of other stuff. Like that doesn't like in the grand scheme of things really matter. It's just Mark Briscoe. He's just the friendly, loving guy that everybody loves, and he's just going on a tangent a little bit. But the basis of this promo was to set up him and Hechicero this Saturday at Collision, which is a live episode of Collision. So I may be covering it depending on how Saturday goes because Saturday does seem like a pretty stacked day for me. So we'll see how that goes. But if I am doing coverage, it'll be up on the Kayfabe Central website. So make sure you guys go check out the Kayfabe Central website. All my coverage posts are there. Um, we went backstage, very segment heavy, by the way, from AEW today. Like, I don't really like take in how segment heavy these shows are until like I'm sitting here on the post show and I'm going through it, and I'm like, man, there was a lot of segments on this show. Like a lot of time AEW is like match heavy and wrestling heavy, but lot of segments here on this show. We went backstage. The Sisters of Sin call out Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, and Harley Cameron to a trios match next week at Maximum Carnage. So that is made official. Um, I still stand by what I said on Sky Blue. As much as I love Sky Blue, and I love her aesthetic, and I love the aesthetic of the entire Sisters of Sin. I think Sky Blue needs to get a little bit better on with her promos because it feels to me that her promos aren't, they're not fitting the vibe of the Sisters of Sin yet. And I think she's almost there, but it's just something that she needs to tweak. It feels very rehearsed, her lines. It doesn't feel natural when it comes out for Sky Blue. It sounds natural when it comes out with Tekla and, a little bit more with Julia Hart, comparing to Sky Blue. But I think Sky Blue is the one that needs to work on, the promo skills as a whole and like in ring as well. I feel like they can definitely get a lot better. They're solid right now, but I think they can get a lot better in ring as well. But there is a lot of potential with the Sisters of Sin, and I'm liking what they're doing. It's just certain aspects that need to improve with it. Um, Bandido defeats Sammy Guevara, as I don't think anybody is surprised about this outcome, but it was a great match. Bandido and Sammy Guevara are both great competitors, and they put on a fantastic match here. Sammy Guevara was bleeding. He was diving off of top ropes and, throwing his body on the line and getting hit in the face, all that good stuff that we love to see in professional wrestling. Um, this was a fun match, a lot of fun. I thought this was just gonna be um, like a throwaway match, like it was gonna be a cool little back and forth, and then Bandito was gonna win, but they went all out, no pun intended, for this match, and it was good. I like not Sami Zayn, Sammy Guevara as a heel much better than I do as a babyface because the babyface thing just doesn't work for him. He just has such a punchable face. You can't have that man babyface. Um, and yeah, but I hope because I don't know if they are trying another Sammy Guevara push. Hopefully, if they are, this one works out because man, how many times are you gonna try to push a guy and it just fails? Like if they have tried to push Sammy Guevara many times and it has just flopped. So, hopefully, for his sake, that he can get a proper push if that's what they plan to do. But yeah, that was Bandito and Sammy Guevara. After that, MJF comes out while Bandito is celebrating, and MJF comes out with a translator for Bandito. MJF reminds us that he is a Lucha Libre legend because he sold out, single-handedly sold out, Arena Mexico and is a former CMLL heavyweight champion. Um, and then he hands the mic over to the translator to insult Bandito in Spanish. I have no idea what was said during this, little spiel from the translator because I don't speak Spanish, unfortunately. But I know it wasn't very nice things that he said to Bandito. Um, and then MJF low blows Bandito after he asks for the diamond ring back, and Bandito says, I can speak English. I think he said, you stupid SOB or something like that. There was definitely a bitch thrown in there. Um, but I think he said stupid son of a bitch or something like that. Um, and then that's when MJF low blowed Bandito, and then takes the diamond ring off of him. The translator holds up Bandito, and MJF goes to punch him. Every true wrestling fan knows what was going to happen next, even if you didn't watch AEW and you're just listening to this post show to see what happened. Thank you, by the way. But even if you don't know, you know what comes next. MJF accidentally hits the translator in the face with the diamond ring, knocks him out. The translator I am so sorry because I don't remember his name. That's why I keep calling him the translator. I don't remember this guy's name. And um I assume that he was a wrestler because I have no idea who this is. So if it's somebody that I need to know or should know, someone let me know in the live chat or in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Um, but he sells it amazingly. He sells the punch amazingly. Just takes a flat back bump and is knocked out cold. That allows Bandido to deliver a low blow of his own and then takes the diamond ring off of MJF and then hits him with the 21 plex and also hits the translator with a 21 plex. So fun match from Bandido and fun segment from MJF and Bandido. A lot of the time, and you see this with WWE, when there's a rivalry between somebody who speaks very good English and a rivalry, between a rivalry that is between somebody that speaks perfect English and somebody who is foreign, is not that good at English, they tend to not know how to write that properly. And again, I'm not doing the comparison thing, but I think AEW did a very good job at doing that because Bandito obviously can speak English, but obviously he can't speak it very well, and there's no problem with that at all. I'm not saying that you need to know how to speak English to wrestle. That's not the case. In case anybody takes that out of context, because it seems like a lot of people have been doing that recently with some of the clips and podcasts that I've been posting. So I'm just putting that out there. Um, but I think AEW did this really well. They did it fantastically. They had the translator, and it worked perfectly with MJF's heel, dynamic that he's got going on. And it made Bandito look more like a baby face. MJF does a great job at putting the baby faces over. And um, like I've heard so many people say, as a heel, your job is to make sure that babyface gets over, and MJF just does that so well, and he did it so well here. So this segment gets a thumbs up from me. Um, we went to Timeless Tony Storm and Marina Shafir. I Going into this match, I was like, flip a coin on who wins. It doesn't really matter. And man, they made this matter even less. Um, because they pulled. We talked about, uh, the Willow Nightingale segment being very WWE like. This seemed very WWE like as well. However, I have a problem with how this match ended. So Tony Storm is going for the pin, and Wheeler Yuta pulls out the referee. The referee calls off the match, which, yes, that should be the case. However, how many times have we seen a case of where the manager pulls out the referee and the referee just stands there and asks, "What are you doing? You can't touch me. I'm the referee," and doesn't call off the match and just continues as if nothing happened. We need to start making more sense in pro wrestling, please, because like this should be the case every single time a manager puts their hands on a referee, but it's not. It's not a lot of time, especially with AEW. Especially with AEW, we've seen it so many times. Refs pulled out of the ring and the match isn't called off. We need more consistency with these type of things. And like again, some people may not be bothered by this, but I am because it's the same thing with the three arm drops. Sometimes, when they're in a submission, they do the three arm drops. Sometimes they just do one and call off the match. Like there's no consistency with these type of things in wrestling anymore. I think that desperately needs to change. Um but Tony Storm technically wins this match by disqualification. I would have thought this would just be a no contest. But Tony Storm wins by DQ. Um, After the match, Marina Shafir knocks out Tony Storm cold. Knocks her out cold. Mina Shirakawa tries to make the save and also gets knocked out cold. Um, Luther then crawls into the ring. Um, and he is threatened by the Death Riders, who, Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia are outside. Marina Shafir's in front of him. He's about to get jumped, but Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong make the save, and send the Death Riders running. And then Orange Cassidy helps up Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. I don't understand this whole like love angle potentially that they're doing with Orange Cassidy and Toni Storm, and like Mina Shirakawa being the, yeah, I would say the guy in the chair, but in this case the girl in the chair. Is that what's going on here with Orange Cassidy, Toni Storm, and Mina Shirakawa? Because like I don't understand this, but like I guess in a way it suits Orange Cassidy's character. I guess so, but man, like it is what it is. Like it's not the worst thing, but it's not the greatest thing either. Um, but we all know that it can get much worse in wrestling, especially when it comes to these type of storylines. So, this is not the worst we've seen. So it is what it is. It's Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. This is just what they do. This is their gimmick. This is their character. So it is what it is. I've always been open and honest about how I feel about Toni Storm's character. I'm not a fan of it. I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I just don't like the aesthetics of her character or anything like that. Yeah, I just don't like anything about it. So, that this could just be a me thing with this segment and this, weird storyline. Um, Darby Allin attacks Pac. He finds Pac backstage. And I kind of missed what Darby Allin actually did because I went to downstairs to go grab dinner and all that stuff because I was starving and I was not coming on this post show hungry. So I missed some of the brawl, but I did see the ending of it where like Darby had Pac's foot in the door or something like that. He was doing something with a door, and forces Pac to agree to a rematch, which he does. The Death Riders come and run Darby off, but Darby is gone. The damage is done to Pac, and that match is set up. I can't remember if they announced that for Maximum Carnage next week or if they even announced it at all. I have to double check, but that match is going to happen at some point between Pac and Darby Allin. Um, so there's that. Um, we then went to the main event of the evening, the lights out match between Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland taking on the Ops, Hook, and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, um, actually, before we get into the main event, before I forget, because I am going to forget if I don't bring this up now, we need to talk about the commentary team tonight on Dynamite. Excalibur is fantastic. I don't like Tony Schiavone's commentary. I was open about that on the AEW End of the Year Awards. And as legendary as Jim Ross is, and he is legendary. He is a Hall of Fame commentator. He is one of the best commentators of all time. I will give him that. But not in 2026. Man, you, stop putting this guy on commentary in 2026. Like I get it that he has a fantastic legacy, and everything that he's done before has been great, but sometimes age catches up with you. And that's not a bad thing. It's just something that happens to every single human being, including Jim Ross, who, also has a lot of health issues. I'm surprised that he stayed on for the entire show. I thought he was just gonna, be brought on for like the second hour of Dynamite or something like that. Or when I saw them open, I thought he was just gonna be like the first hour of Dynamite. But no, he stayed on for the entire show. And like, there were points on commentary where he was like making jokes or attempting to make jokes, and you could just see or like hear like no reaction from Excalibur and Tony Schiavone. Like, some of the jokes he was making were just very, very corny, and like it just wasn't good. And again, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jim Ross, a tremendous amount. Um, However, I don't think we should keep him on commentary in 2026. I think we need to give that to some more up and coming guys. Some younger guys. Like I like Bryan Danielson on commentary. Excalibur is great. I like Nigel McGuinness on commentary. Guys like that, give that job to. Let the legendary commentators, hang it up. Let them, just live their life. Um, but let's get into the lights out match. Um, this was amazing. This was a fantastic match, man. Uh, they started with, so I always get confused on how these lights out matches work because we've seen them before, but like I think every company and promotion does it differently. So they started the match with the lights off. Um, the lights were very dim and it was just a spotlight, but it was very like not very, it was kind of hard to like see properly, and I can imagine it was kind of hard to see for people in the arena as well to keep their eyes everywhere. So eventually they just brought the lights completely back on. Now they did make the stipulation that they turn off the lights and once they come back on, it is unsanctioned. AEW is not responsible, so they still had that, so still under lights out rules, and I'm glad they specified that because the lights dimming clearly didn't work, and I give credit where credit is due for AEW not being ashamed to turn the lights on, because a lot of times with these type of matches, the lighting, it's a lights out match, and when it's dark, it's hard to see. So credit to AEW for turning those lights back on because it made my job easier too, just to watch the match, and I can imagine it made a lot of the audience's jobs easier to watch the match, especially the ones that were higher up in the stands as well. So I appreciate them doing that. Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland beat Powerhouse Hobbs and Hook. There's a lot of brutal spots. Swerve Strickland getting World's Strongest slammed by Powerhouse Hobbs onto um, the cinder blocks. That was brutal. There was absolutely no give to that. Um, we had staple guns in play. Hangman and Swerve love those staple guns. Um, Powerhouse Hobbs got a staple in the balls, right in the balls, because they tried to staple his chest and it didn't affect him. Tried stapling his stomach, it didn't affect him. And Hangman said, I have an idea. Give me the stapler. And he staples his balls. So that's the one that put Powerhouse Hobbs down. And then at the end of the match, or towards the end of the match, I say the Ops Dojo came out and attacked Swerve and Hangman. They tied them up, but Prince Nana made the save, sacrificing himself. He threw his coffee on Powerhouse Hobbs. And for anyone who has had coffee spilled on them before, imagine that, a burning cup of coffee, a fresh, hot cup of coffee being thrown in your face. That's about as brutal as it can get, ladies and gentlemen. Um, but yeah, Powerhouse Hobbs gets coffee in the face. That allows Swerve and Hangman to do a very cool maneuver and flip out of the chains, take out the Ops Dojo, take out Hook and Powerhouse Hobbs. The match ends with Swerve. Sorry, no. Yeah, no. Hangman and Swerve doing a combination of the Swerve Stomp and Deadeye onto cement, onto the cinder blocks on Powerhouse Hobbs, and Powerhouse Hobbs was dead for the rest of the match. And they turned their attention to Hook, who tried fighting back. Hook, who had a lot of good spots in this match. I'll give credit where it's due, by the way, because I was very negative on Hook on the end of the year awards. But he had a lot of cool spots in this match. Some of the suplexes he pulled off were pretty cool. I still need to see a lot more from Hook. I need to see consistency. I need to see a better character from him specifically because that's where he's lacking the most in his promo skills. Like he's not bad in the ring, but it's everything else that he needs to work on. But he had some cool spots here. Um, but he also had a spot where he got the hell beat out of him by Swerve and Hangman, and then Hangman eventually does what he did with Moxley at All In. He chokes Hook over the ropes with the chain, and that forces Hook to tap out and gives Hangman and Swerve the win. Um, this was a lot of fun, a lot of fun, and I enjoyed this match. As a whole, I enjoyed this episode of Dynamite. I think this was a really solid episode of Dynamite. Um, Besides some things, like I could have done without the Willow celebration segment. Like I said, a very WWE type segment. Um, and then there wasn't really anything else on this show other than that Willow segment, to be honest, that I disliked. Everything else was either fine or was good. And overall, the show gets a thumbs up for me. Great way to kick off the new year for AEW. And yeah, overall, fantastic show. And not a bad match on the show, except for the Marina and Toni one. I I didn't really enjoy that and how it ended and all that. But um, you know what? It is what it is. You can't have it perfect every week. Um, but overall, thumbs up for this show. As always, I want to know what you guys have to say and what your thoughts are. So make sure if you're in the live chat, make sure you let me know your thoughts right now. We're in the final stretch of this AEW Dynamite post-show review. So make sure you're dropping your thoughts in the live chat. And if you're watching this after the fact, make sure you drop your thoughts in the comments. Whether you agree or disagree with anything I say, then let me know. I had some people strongly disagreeing with me on Twitter/X about the stuff I said about Kairi Sane um, on the Monday Night Raw post show and how I mentioned that she's getting sloppier in the ring. I fully mentioned that I love Kairi Sane and Kairi Sane is amazing. However, I'm going to call out when somebody is not performing well in the ring, and I am not going to take analyst advice from fan accounts. As much as, I have, some close friends who run fan accounts and they are good people. But at the same time, there's certain fan accounts who, just devote their life to, supporting a wrestler. And that's all they do 24/7. So, those are the people I try to avoid arguing with because, um, yeah, it's just not healthy for anybody's self-esteem. But I never said I disliked Kairi Sane. I just said that she's getting much more sloppy in the ring, and that needs to change. But people take that the wrong way. That's why I mentioned earlier, a lot of people take the things that I say very much out of context. So I have to specify sometimes. So if you guys think I'm dumbing it down because whatever, I sometimes have to because a lot of people like to take things that I say out of context. But that's beside the point. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that comes to the channel. All that good stuff. Check out the Kayfabe Central website. You guys already know. That's where all the coverage posts are. That's where all the articles are, the written predictions, all that good stuff is over there on the Kayfabe Central website. So make sure you guys go check that out. If you want news and updates, Twitter and Instagram are your places. Whether it be Ontario independent wrestling news, whether it be mainstream wrestling news, check out the Twitter, check out the Instagram, all that good stuff. Check out the TikTok page as well. If you're on there, I post a variety of different content on TikTok as well. So check all that stuff out if you want to support Kayfabe Central in multiple different ways. All the links are down in the description. But that's going to do it for me tonight. I'm going to call it a night. I will be back Friday night for the Friday Night SmackDown post-show review. I can't believe it's a Wednesday already. But yeah, I will be back Friday. And until then, I will see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.